And welcome to After Hours with Pastor Joe.
And Lady Lynnette.
Yeah, we have to make it feel like it's after hours.
It's like noon.
Salute to everybody.
Hey, everybody.
Good to see you all. I'm Pastor Joe.
And I'm Lady Lynnette.
And we are the pastor and first lady of Salem Bible Church, Atlanta and Stonecrest. And this is a new segment for us.
Very excited about.
We're excited. It's called After Hours. You want to tell them what After Hours is, dude?
Yes. So After Hours is our opportunity after church, after the hours of church, to come together, to come back to this platform to discuss the sermon, life application to the sermon, how it fits into your life, and how you can make it your own.
Yeah. So After Hours, you know, like Lynnette said, is our opportunity to kind of take nuggets of the sermon and the message and like really discuss.
Yes.
You know?
Yeah.
So we're excited.
I'm very excited.
Yeah. So good to see everybody.
Yeah.
So let's lay it out. So we're excited because this month we're doing a new series called
the month of May.
Give, Save, Live.
Give, Save, Live.
So at our church, we are initiating a program where we are putting emphasis on tithing, people giving God the 10%, people saving the 10%, and people living off of the other 80. So we don't want to just say tithe, but we want to teach tithing what it is. We're finding out individuals who aren't tithers but want to become tithers, but also putting the emphasis on saving. And, you know, we're living in a changing world.
Yes.
You know, so people need to be equipped. So one of the things that we're doing is through the rest of the year, we're going to be bringing people to the church, individuals who are specialists in budgeting, investments, retirement, wills, insurance, starting businesses, how to make money on the internet.
Yes.
You know, so what are your thoughts on that?
I love it. I think one of the untapped markets of the tithe conversation has been exactly what Salem is addressing. And it's about not only the concept of what tithing is, the importance of what it is, but how do I like ground zero, like tithing 101, right? Yeah. So it's so many components. Like tithing, I think, is like the umbrella, but there's so many supporting beams to that, like the investments, like the wills, like the digital currency of how to make money while you sleep. Who wouldn't want to know about that? So I'm excited.
Yeah, you know, tithing is one of those things that's like a taboo. People don't like talking about money, but it needs to be taught because people miss out on supernatural living when they don't understand tithing.
Agreed.
I've been in church all my life, and what I've noticed is this: individuals who are tithers are individuals who have less issues with the other elements of life that a lot of people struggle. 95% of people who are in need, and there's nothing against that, are people who aren't tithers. It's difficult to teach people tithing from the vantage point of like making logical arguments because it's illogical.
Right. It doesn't make logical sense.
It doesn't.
Yeah.
Which is the reason why it's supernatural, because it's a spiritual thing. And I think for me, tithing has been a part of my life because I have and had two parents that taught me that.
Yes.
What about you? When did you become a tither?
I became a tither when I started coming to Salem. So before I met you.
You've been ripping off all the other churches.
I've been tipping the mother churches.
You've been tipping.
I've been tipping.
Go on. That sounds good.
Anyway, being honest, because after hours we are transparent.
This is after hours.
We lay it all out.
This is the quiet storm.
Not the quiet storm.
The quiet storm.
So no, but growing up, I was Catholic. I was raised Catholic, and so that wasn't a pillar of Catholicism. And so when I was about 13 or 14, when I converted to the Baptist faith, and then that concept started to have the conversation. So my parents then were very much so invested and involved. And so when I had an allowance, we wrote out our envelopes on the way to church, and, we practiced that. So it was I was a teenager when I learned the concept, but when I really began to know it for myself was when I came to Salem. So
now, how's it feel when you see our little ones giving their dimes and nickels?
Oh, you should see them getting up there counting their little change before Sunday.
Yeah. It's precious.
I'm not going to cry after dark.
Okay, yes, you can't. You have to cry before dark.
No, but it just goes to show you like that intention is what it takes to grow up so that you don't have to convince people about the supernatural blessings that tithing logistically can't give you.
Yeah, agreed.
So
well said.
Thanks.
Yeah. So today, like in the message earlier, today it was called Give, Save, Live off of Malachi chapter 3, verse 10. Test me and see when I open up. So when heaven pour upon you, bless you, won't have room enough to receive. And all that other stuff. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it was a good way.
Yes.
Right.
As always.
Right. So what we want to do, we don't want to come back up here and tell you how great the sermon was and re-preach it, but we want to take an element out of it and let you know how we applied that in our household.
Yes.
That's what we want to do with After Hours. And in that way, it's more palatable. And there's nothing wrong with the sermon, but a sermon is a form of communication.
Right.
And this is another.
But there's only so much you can say in a sermon.
It's only so much.
So it's
you
only
got
so
35 minutes.
Tops.
And during Falcon season, you got 25 minutes.
Exactly. So I think having this like deep dive and you guys asking questions in the comment section and things like that is really going to enhance your conceptual understanding of not only the biblical reference, but the personal one as well.
So in the message, the part that we're going to talk about on today is I was laying out different examples of why people don't save. We talked about tithing, but we got to the saving part. Mm-hmm. And I think I had 5 different examples of what we do. We overconsume, things of that nature. But one of the things that I said is people don't save because they're in debt.
Correct.
And what we want to discuss on today is having effective debt strategies. That's what we're going to talk about, right?
Yes.
All right. Now, I got my degree in finance, by the way.
Hello.
I just want
put some respect on
do
your
you
name.
think I'm a good manager of money?
Oh my gosh. You squeak when you walk.
I squeeze when I walk. You calling me cheap?
You're very frugal, Pastor.
I'm frugal.
No, but I love that about you. Because me, I'm like, ooh, look at this.
Yeah.
You're like, Lynnette, this is not in the budget. I'm like, well, technically it could be if you just increase the budget. You're like, it doesn't work like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I appreciate
She calls me cheap.
I didn't call you cheap.
I don't mind. Everybody got to be cheap in some area.
Yes, that's very true. Yes.
But you think I manage money well?
100%. I think.
Why do you think I manage money well? Go ahead and laud me.
The mic is on. Well, number one, you have a budget for everything. There's no such thing as, let me know how much it is. It's, hey, this is the budget. You're going to spend within this budget. If you don't, then we're not getting it, period.
Yeah, you're going to be eating ramen noodles.
Yes. So not only do you live on a budget and like that is just like the essence of who you are. You're such a planner. So like if there is a big ticket item that you want to get, or you see that is going to, like the house, like we're trying to get the house painted, right? So we
what
know.
What happened to $500?
Listen, that's per room. For like a 300 square foot room. Right. So we're like, so not only are we planning for that, but this was the budget when we got the house painted 5-6 years ago. So now the budget has gone up. So now we have to plan a little farther out. We may have to do some adjustments. So you're excellent at not only planning, but putting the budget. And then, there are certain opportunities where you have to, like increase the budget a little bit. Mm-hmm. So you don't, just because there's an increase in something, you don't take that increase for living expense. You're like, hey, I'm going to put this in an account. This is what we didn't allocate for, but if we need it, this is like an emergency fund. You've always talked about, wills and planning for the next decade. You're like, hey, 5 years from now, 10 years from now. And most people just don't think like that.
And you handle money well also.
Oh, thanks.
When I met you, you had good credit.
I did. Hello. Hello. I did.
That's huge.
That's huge.
That says a lot about you as an individual. Mm-hmm. Any individual. Mm-hmm. No disrespect to anybody with bad credit, because stuff happens. Yeah. But you get what I'm saying.
And my parents always taught me that having good credit is better than having money. And so I grew up with that concept.
So what we're going to do something that we've never done within church. We don't really, what we're going to talk about are not things that we normally talk about on any of our social media platforms and in church. And we're doing that for a reason, hence After Hours. and we're talking about debt strategy. So let me talk about the overall point, then we'll get to the story.
Okay.
Having a debt strategy means that when you're in debt, you have a strategy of how you're going to get out of debt. I'll give you an example. Let's say, for instance, the average American is in $7,600 of credit card debt, and that's multiple different lines of credit: American Express, Discover, Visa, or what have you. And a lot of times people are making minimum payments or close to minimum payments to manage the debt while they continuously spend. Okay. Now, a debt strategy is looking at those three different credit cards, identifying the one with the highest interest rate, right?
Yes.
Decreasing your spending, and then taking as much extra as you can to eradicate the debt on the credit card with the highest interest first. And then once you get that credit card paid off, then you move to the next one and the next one. That's an example of a debt strategy. Okay. And this is something people don't do enough of.
Correct.
And in order to have a debt strategy, you have to be disciplined. You have to be aware of your spending. You have to have a solid budget, and you have to be willing to give up temporary pleasures of, I want the shoe now, I want the outfit now, I want to take the trip now.
That's the hard part.
That's the hard part.
I think that's the hardest part.
Talk about it.
All right. I think that it is all conceptually misrepresented in just life. You know, you get, as soon as you turn 18, you're getting inundated with credit card applications, 0% APR. And so you pretend and have this idea that the credit card that you're using, oh, I'll just pay it off next month. And then something else happens and I'll just put on the credit card. And so then you start to accrue this balance, and then, but your lifestyle doesn't change. And then you exist in this world of, I'm just going to be in debt. I'm just going to make the minimum payments. But living a debt-free life and having that freedom to do whatever you need to do whenever you need to do it is going to be the game changer, especially in today's economy. Like, we just don't know where interest rates are going. We don't know, people can't even afford houses that they were looking for, 2-3 years ago.
Yeah. That GDP contracted for the first time in many years.
GDP, gross domestic
product. Yeah.
So when you think about the things that we focus on and pay attention to, being able to say, no, I'm not going to do that, and stop spending on the car. So a lot of times you'll be in debt. You'll have this great debt strategy, but you just can't help this purse. You can't help this really great vacation special that, came in your lap. So,
So great fodder.
Yeah.
So let's spill the beans.
Let's bring it home.
Okay. So let's talk about our real life. This is real.
In recent.
We're talking about within the 3 years ago. All right. So I'll let you kind of start off, and then I'll come in after you set the stage of where we were, and then talk about the debt strategy. We go back and then go from there. Okay.
So about 3-4 years ago, we've been married almost 9 years. Amen, somebody. And so
October 21st, 2016.
Best day of your life.
It was one cold December.
Friday night. But no, so we've been married almost 9 years. And prior to that, so I graduated from Clark Atlanta University in 2003. I immediately went to graduate school and graduated in 2005 with my master's degree. And so my first year at Clark Atlanta, I did not receive any sort of financial aid. And so that was out of pocket. And my sophomore through senior year, I was fortunate enough to get a combination of all expenses paid tuition. And my last 2 years, I also received room and board. And so I was pretty much debt free as it relates to college. But my huge debt came from my postgraduate master's degree program. Because there just weren't monies out there for master degree programs. So I was paying the minimum payments. My parents at that time were helping me pay that. As soon as you come out of college, a lot of you all know, or come out of school, there aren't that many entry-level beginning jobs that can subsidize not only living expenses, but also debt reduction. At the time, I had no other debt other than my credit card debt, or excuse me, my student loan debt. And so fast forward to we get married, we are, living the budgeted, life, and it's been great. And throughout a conversation, we were having this conversation about, me wanting to have him help me pay off my student loans quicker. And he said, well, Lynnette, I know you've been talking about paying your student loans now for a couple of years. Exactly how much is it? So told him how much it was. And he said, oh no, Lynnette, you're not going to be able, I was paying it for almost a decade and a half, that I was paying, lump sums as much as I could, but also paying the minimum payments. And we were able to create a debt strategy that got us out of debt.
Well, okay, that's enough. Okay. Let's go back and let them know the debt strategy.
Okay.
We're talking about, let's tell them, what was it, like 20?
So this is
25,000.
It was 29 and some change.
Yeah, it was right under 30.
Yes.
All right. So we're dealing. Okay. So again, we're being honest and transparent. So Lynnette and I never talked about this when we first got married, and it wasn't she was keeping anything from me. It was just something that she was managing. I had heard her talk about it, but we never discussed it. And maybe that is something for those of you all who are not married, to be a bit more audible and intentional about the conversation, so you can know. All right. But I didn't take it as a fact that she was hiding or anything. It was just something she was managing. So like she said, I said, Lynnette, how much debt are you in? And when she told me, I almost fell out the chair. I'm thinking, whatever I was thinking, it wasn't that. And the moment she said it was the moment I knew we were going to eradicate this debt, which was ours. So once again, it kind of goes back to marriage and understanding the institution and the vows.
Right.
It wasn't like this is her debt. When I realized what it was, this is our debt. Okay. And at the time, Lynnette's father had passed away. May he rest in peace. And I knew that it was like I had to show up, So what we did, and this is what the essence of this conversation. This conversation is not to tell you all that we did it all right, but it's to show you and to give you an example of a debt strategy. All right. So the first thing we did is we analyzed our entire budget.
Yes.
Everything we do is budgeted, from
groceries,
house, lawn care, child care, tuition, food.
Yes.
Date nights. Okay.
Yes, definitely.
Vacations. Everything is budgeted in this house. Like she said earlier, it's how I work, it's how I operate. And Lynnette has entrusted me to be the keeper of the finances of our household. She's got her responsibilities. That's one of mine. All right. So the first thing we did, we analyzed the budget. And I knew we had to come up with an additional $2,000.
Yes.
A month minimum. All right. At the time, I had a Porsche Taycan. I'm being 100% honest, and I loved it. I had it for a year. It was white with black interior. Y'all, I'm keeping it 100. It was electric, and I absolutely love that car.
Yeah, it's nice.
But when I'm sitting down and I'm going through all of the budget, it was one of the larger ticketed items I had to get rid of.
And I said, no. We can figure this out.
I said no. I sold that car, and I got a F-150.
You sure did.
Didn't I?
That is an honest to goodness
truth. That's honest to goodness truth. I saved.
I couldn't believe it.
That was $1,000. So $1,000. It was like $850, $900 less. So off of that, $900 was recaptured. Off of that, okay. I went through the rest of the budget. I squeezed and made adjustments, and we were able to get to the $2,000. So we started month one, $2,000 principal only on the actual debt. And
no, that's important.
Right.
Principal only.
Principal only. And, talk to them about how, because it's set up to where if you pay extra, the extra you pay goes to later payments, but not the
Correct.
principal. Remember how they were doing it to where it
Yes.
was different?
Yes.
Yeah.
So when we would make like principal, we thought we were making principal only payments. It was going to the interest that had accrued that month, as well as whatever quote was left over would go to the future month's payment. So you literally had to call in and say, I would like to make a principal only payment, give them the loan number, tell them exactly how many dollars and cents you wanted to pay on the principal only, and then they would apply it. You had to do that every month.
Yeah.
Because you couldn't just pay it online.
Right. So we were able to make the adjustments that we need to. And Lynnette made adjustments as well, because there was some certain areas in her spending and what she was doing that she had to pull back on.
Mm-hmm.
The car was just the biggest tranche of it, but we had to make other cuts. So we got to the $2,000 a month, because I said to myself, I said, okay, if we can do this for 12 months, that's 24. And then, maybe it'll take us about 15 months to do.
Mm-hmm.
So we got the $2,000 down. So each month, Lynnette I'm transferring the money to her, and she's making principal only payments on her student loan debt.
Mm-hmm.
And we start watching that bottom line be hit.
Yes.
It went from 29 to 27, all while she's still making the regular payments.
Right. That's key.
Okay. So we're making two payments. We're making the principal and interest payment, which is $300-$400 a month.
Mm-hmm.
And then the $2,000 principal only.
Right.
So each month she's going back into the system, and we're seeing good traction.
Yes.
Motivation, especially after you have a plan of if it's losing weight, if it's saving money, if it's getting out of debt, is very, very important. You are not going to be motivated if you're making $100 payments on a $30,000 loan,
because you won't see it.
You're not going to see it. So we were able to see it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So we went for 3 months and we knocked that debt down $6,000. We went from 29 and some change to 25 and some change in 90 days.
Yes.
Okay. So we kept going. I had a few speaking engagements. Every time I made extra money,
Mm-hmm.
I took all of it. I paid my tithe. I put a percentage in the account for our kids' college,
Mm-hmm.
and the rest we tacked it on.
Mm-hmm.
So for the first 3 months, we were making $2,000 extra payments, but then it was a month that we made a $4,000 payment.
Mm-hmm.
Another month we made a $6,000 payment, and then another month it was like
$3,000
some change.
Like yeah.
Right. We paid. That debt was liquidated in 8 months.
Yeah. Yep. 8 months.
8 months.
And I've been paying on it ever since I got out of college.
Yeah. So you're talking about you got out of school in
05.
Mm-hmm. And we paid it off in 2023. Correct. So you're talking about 18 years.
Yep.
So she probably paid off what was owed 3 times.
Yep.
So that was the debt strategy, and that's something that we were proud of. I know I was proud of.
Absolutely.
And the moment the moment we got out of debt, I took that F1 for no disrespect to anybody with F.
Like, hey, partner.
I couldn't get to the dealership.
Hey, partner. Like, Lynnette, you make that payment.
I said, y'all take this thing. Take it back.
Where my Tithe card?
Where my man? I'm telling you, I went right back, but that's what happened, man. But 2
points to that. Number one, since we had been making those lump sum payments, the interest that we were paying per month also came down. So those $300 to $400 payments were only like $200 was going toward principal. Yeah. Now, since the overall balance was lower, that interest was also lower, so more was going to that principal.
Yeah.
But also, you sacrificed for a small percentage of time, and you were able to then take that same discipline and say, you know what, since I can do this anytime we don't know what's going to happen in life. It doesn't have to be school related. It could be house. We've had floods, in our basement, and that wasn't an expense that we anticipated. But anyway, you can have life events to happen, but it also showed you that, hey, I can still get the things that I want. It just may not be denied. It may be delayed, but it's not denied. So
yeah. And that the hardest part for me, like, was just it really wasn't, because I just made up in my mind that I wanted us to be out of debt more than I wanted to keep that car.
That's exactly
every
what you
decision
said.
in life comes to that. You gotta want whatever the goal is more than your present condition. And if you don't, you'll never change.
100%.
You know, and I wasn't looking for like praise or anything. It was just like a knee jerk. We're in this is what we got to do.
Yeah.
And it was a great thing. And even it's something that I was proud of as being the head of the house. And to you brothers watching, you kind of know that we pride ourselves on doing the right thing. You know, you want to lead your family in the right way. And I knew that was the right thing to do. And I think Lynnette's respect for me increased all the more when she saw that I did that. And I didn't ask her.
Yeah, I couldn't.
By the time I told her about the car, I had already called the broker and say, look, I need you to sell this.
I couldn't believe it, because I kept saying to myself, I'm like, dear, there has to be another way. You can't, because I knew how much that car meant, because it was something that you wanted. It was something that you enjoyed. It was something that, you know, our family could be in. So it represented more than just like, oh, some car that I'm going to give up. And I think, to your point, a lot of times, you know, we have those things in our life that we just really don't want to give up. But to your point, when you have something, when the goal that you want is bigger than your desire of the right now, it was an easy choice. And I kept trying to talk you out of it. You were like, Lynnette, stop. I'm this is done. I couldn't believe it. I'm so grateful. I'm grateful for not only you, but for what it meant for our house, because now that we are in a position where we don't have that, we're able to give and invest more in our children's future.
And you know, again, and I think this is what After Hours is about. Like, you gave up a lot. You went from getting your nails done you were making, like, the nails, it may not cost what the car does, but it's as important to you. So Lynnette was giving up her hair trips. She was giving up
my gym membership.
Your gym. Hey, that's what we had to do.
Yeah.
That's what we had to do, because it was one of those things. It was like, okay, we need to focus all of our thoughts and get out of this quickly. I don't want to be in this 2 years from now. Let's get in and get in. And the original timetable was about 15 months.
Yeah, 15, 18 months.
It's just that the Lord let a couple of things that I hadn't planned on happening to happen. And I never spent the money. I paid my tithe off of it. I saved for our children, and all the rest of that extra went into that.
Yeah.
And you know what? Ever since that day, we have not had 1 month where we've been in any type of debt.
Correct.
So if you're going to have this is the ultimate part of the discussion. We want to share with you all that practical thing, share with you all what we did. But now we want you all to have those type of considerations. Look at your life. Some of you all may not be in debt. Some of you may be in debt. Some of you may be in a lot of debt. Some of you all may be in a small amount of debt. And it's really different, because it's really not about how much debt you're in, but how much, what kind of income do you have? And the first thing that you're going to have to do is to want to get out of debt.
Yes.
But the second thing you're going to have to do, you're going to have to be disciplined. You're not going to be able to have brunch like you used to. You're not going to be able to get your feet done, or your nails done, or your hair done, or that maybe you get a suit every other month. Whatever it is, it has to be a form of discipline. It has to be a goal that's set. It has to be discipline that is exercised. It has to be a plan that's mapped out. And everybody in the household has to be on the same page.
Yes, definitely.
Now, this was huge for Lynnette and I, because, you know, every household is not on one accord.
Right. And that wasn't the household I grew up in. You know, like it was kind of like, hey, you can't afford it. Let's just charge it now and we'll just pay it off later. Like that mentality really affects you differently as a
Yeah.
grown adult who has the ability to convince themselves that
Yeah.
this is a viable way to live life. But the whole reason that we've been successful in this is to be able to teach our children.
Yeah.
Like, hey, if you like, credit isn't like pretend money. Like, this is money you don't have that's outside of your budget.
And being out of debt creates a lot more visibility of what it is, because, you know, credit will create figments of your imagination.
100%.
It'll make you think that the lifestyle you have is real and it's really borrowed.
Yeah, it's not. Yeah.
And not only is it borrowed, but it's taxed, because that's what interest is.
Borrowed and taxed.
And it's the reason why the Bible talks against that. It's against the law to make a loan to another person and tack on interest.
Mm-hmm.
It's almost like it's immoral.
Yeah.
And that immorality is the foundation of capitalism. You can't have capitalism without debt.
It won't work.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You know, so, you know, what we want you to encourage you all to, hopefully you can be positively inspired by this story. I'm sure you all have your stories.
Yes.
Share them with us. Let us know if you have questions. You can post them below. But this is just to whet the palate of After Hours.
Yes. Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
So if you had to leave them, if they, you know, were doing all kind of stuff during our conversation and didn't catch certain things, if you had to leave them with one nugget of successfully give, save, live, and the application of that in their life, what would you say?
Okay. Giving God the tithe is about honoring God. So it's about saying, God, I trust and believe in you enough that I know what your word has said. And I'm trusting that what you've allowed me to possess, that I'm giving you the 10% freely, not last, but first. All right. So tithing is honoring God. Saving is honoring God. Because when I save off of the 90% that I have, I'm also showing God that I'm honoring him by recognizing that I'm going to be a good steward over this. This still isn't mine. I'm a steward over it.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
That's good. And
then the last part is that's what allows us to live in supernatural living. And the Bible goes through all of what and how we'll be blessed. He said, test me and see when I open up the windows of heaven to pour upon you a blessing you won't have room enough to receive. That means the tithe is something that activates supernatural blessings. Okay.
Yeah.
And then he goes into that Malachi chapter 3, verse 11, and it talks about how we'll be protected. There are a lot of people who are tithers. You have your own testimony of things you've been in, and you know that it was how you honored God that got you out of it. Yeah. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's good.
And it's not always just, oh, I got a bonus or I got a job. Sometimes it can be, I'm in hell and I've got my peace.
Yeah.
You know, or it could be the fact that everybody's asking me for money. But would you rather be the person who is asking for money or being asked? That's a blessing.
That's a blessing.
So a lot of times God has allowed us to live under open windows, and we were too ignorant to realize that this is a byproduct of how I've been obedient. You know, and that's what we're doing at Salem. So at our church, we're not just hounding on give God the tithe, give God the tithe. No, we want to also ask people, if you're not a tither, what do you need to become one? Some folks need some financial training. So that's why we're going to bring people into our church who can help people establish budgets, because you'll be surprised how many people out there don't have budgets, Lynnette. You cannot have a debt, and see, it's all interconnected. You cannot have a debt strategy without good budgeting.
Can't.
If I asked you right now, what percentage of your money goes towards gas? What percentage of your money is how are you spending it? A lot of people don't know.
A lot of people don't.
A lot of people go and they look at their app and they shocked.
Yeah. Like, oh.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So that's what I would say. I think I'm so thankful I had two parents that taught me tithing. And that's one of the reasons why we are tithers and one of the reasons why we teach our children to be. So we're going to have another conversation next week. Hope y'all join us. Let them know how they can hit us on if they want to come worship with us.
Yes.
You know, say all the ticker tape.
So we are Salem Bible Church, one church in 2 locations. We have Salem Bible Church Atlanta, 2283 Baker Road Northwest. And then we also have our Atlanta Stonecrest location, which is located off of I-20 in Panola Road, 5460 Hillendale Road. And we have worship every single Sunday at 11 a.m. But you can also worship with us virtually as you are wherever you're watching this. If you have internet access, you have access to salembiblechurch.org. And then on that site, it'll give you all the replays if you can't catch it live. Yeah.
You can visit us at www.salembiblechurch.org for more information.
Yes.
And we'll be here every Sunday.
Yes.
During the month of May.
May.
And who knows what may happen.
Who knows what may happen in the month of May.
Thank you for coming to After Hours. Pastor Jill.
And Lady Lynnette.
Lady Lynnette. We'll see you next time on The Quiet Storm.